Hi, I am Key. Before I became a teacher, I worked as an interpreter, serving high-profile clients, including the Backstreet Boys. I was also an event planner, hosting hundreds of parties for English learners across Chengdu. Over the years, I worked my way up to become an expert English teacher, as well as an EdTech solopreneur, which is really just a fancy word for a one-person company. So I worked for this AI-native dictionary service called Dinosaurus, which actually I vibe coded by myself. So I've spent years mastering the mechanics of language, but not too long ago, I found myself standing in a crowded language training classroom right here in Chengdu. The air conditioner was humming, the fluorescent lights were buzzing, casting this dull, sterile glow over everything. And I was actually quite exhausted. I was looking out at a sea of students who were desperately trying to memorize vocabulary lists and grammar rules just to pass some standardized tests. They were stressed out, and I was burned out. We were all trapped in what I call the information cocoon. And in this cocoon, the dynamic is simple, but deeply flawed. The student is a passive consumer, and the teacher, me, is the ultimate bottleneck of knowledge. My job was to stand at the front of the room, memorize the textbook, and then the lesson name. After that, pour that data into my students' heads. So in the past, the information gap was incredibly difficult to fill, which is why that system worked for centuries. But today, we are drowning in data, and yet we are starving for actual understanding. And then the paradigm shifted. Artificial intelligence arrived. Tools like Gemini hit the mainstream, and suddenly, the entire education industry actually panicked. School managers were terrified of cheating. Teachers were terrified of obsolescence. And honestly, for a brief moment, I was terrified too. Here comes a machine that could generate essays, solve complex equations, and translate languages in milliseconds. It was a faster, smarter, infinitely more patient content provider. If an AI could do all of that, then what was my purpose? Why was I standing at the front of this room? But that fear quickly turned into an epiphany. This realization gave me the courage to leave the traditional institutional system entirely and build my own AI-powered courseware. But I quickly realized that simply giving people AI tools wasn't enough at all. You can hand somebody a supercomputer, but if they don't know how to ask the right questions, then it's just a very expensive paperweight. The truth is, loop engineering is much more important than the AI itself. We had to fundamentally change how we learn right now. And learning is no longer about acquiring data. Learning is simply mastering the art of learning how to learn. To bridge this gap, I developed a learning operating system for the AI era. I call it the DynamoOS. And unlike operating systems that rely on flashy interfaces, this one delivers results through a core concept I call the R.U.A method. It stands for recognize, understand, and apply. First, to recognize. In the past, learning meant staring at a textbook chapter. But today, recognizing means identifying the core boundaries of your learning targets so you can prompt the AI correctly. It's the art of asking the right questions. For example, when learning a new word, you don't just want to ask for a definition. You ask the AI to recognize the meaning, form, and pronunciation. The main gap between you and your learning target. And second, to understand, this is where you synthesize. AI is not perfect. It hallucinates when given ambiguous prompts. So understanding is not just memorizing intrinsic meanings, it's grasping contextual application. AI can explain quantum physics to you like a 5-year-old or like a PhD student. It can adjust its tone, offering a gentle suggestion, playful banter, or even stern urgency, capturing the full spectrum of human expression. So understanding is adjusting that dial until the concept clicks in your specific human brain. And thirdly, to apply. You execute the knowledge in the real world. You find the friction because we all know that practice makes perfect. Where did you fail? Where did the AI hallucinate? The AI should be able to analyze your learning gap based on where you currently are and generate a proper practice task. You take that friction and you feed that right back into the recognize phase to start the cycle again. The R.U.A method isn't a study hack. It's a survival skill. It should be ingrained into our cognitive operating system. When I first started my solopreneur business, I wasn't a coder. I wasn't a marketing guru, but using R.U.A, I partnered with AI to build out my courseware step by step. I didn't ask AI to do it for me. I asked it to coach me. I asked it to recognize my task, understand the market, and then coach me to build the tools I've been implementing across my classrooms. But I know there are university students and educators in this room right now who are deeply anxious. Administrators, you might be thinking, if students use AI to do their work, the integrity of education is gone. And students, you might be feeling guilty for using these tools, hiding them in the background. But why? When books first appeared, did people try to hide them because they helped carry knowledge outside of our brain? We need to stop treating AI like a cheating device and start treating it like a cognitive exoskeleton. So when a student uses AI to bypass the apply phase, like just copying and pasting an essay, that is the cocoon. That is passive consumption. But when a student uses the R.U.A method to debate with an AI, to challenge its logic, to generate 5 different perspectives on a historical event before writing their own synthesis, that is bridging the gap. And that is active creation. I am a learning architect, so as a learning architect, my job is to design experiences that prove this dynamic works. In fact, I designed one for you today. Everything you have experienced for the last 12 minutes, the structure of the speech, the narrative arc, the pacing, even the core outline I submitted to the TEDx organizers, was not created by me sitting alone in a dark room and staring at a blank document. It was co-architected with my AI agents. So I fed the AI the raw and vulnerable materials of my life, my burnout in Chengdu, my transition to a solopreneur, the mechanics of the R.U.A method, and I acted as a human strategist, giving it the strict parameters of the TEDx format. And then the AI acted as a computational engine, helping me structure the data. In fact, the entire R.U.A, the whole process, can be embedded into a single prompt, an AI agent, or building logic behind any application. So I recognized the target, we understood the context, and today, on this stage, I am applying it. I hope this can be the proof of the synergy of human vulnerability and strategic direction combined with AI's massive computational power creates a far superior outcome than either of us working in isolation. We are standing at the edge of the greatest educational revolution in human history right now. But technology alone will not save us from the information cocoon. Only a shift in our identity will do that. So to the students in the room, stop being passive consumers. Stop letting the system spoon-feed you the data that you will forget the day after the exam. Step outside the box. Use these tools to challenge your own mind and become the architect of your own education. And to my fellow educators, please step down from the podium. Relinquish the heavy, exhausting burden of being the content provider. Your students don't need you to be a textbook anymore, and they need you to be a human. They need your empathy, your mentorship, and your coaching to help them navigate in a world that is changing faster than ever before. Learning is, and always will be, simply about learning how to learn. So why don't we let AI handle the data and let us handle the humanity? Thank you.